Do we have someone here with us?
We do.
We
Who's our
do.
guest today, Eric?
We have somebody named Macy. Space E Art Macy.
Spacey Art Macy on Instagram.
Spacey Art Macy. Yep.
Hey.
Wait, is your name Mabe? Mabe? Mabe?
So my name's Macy.
Macy.
But I publish under Mabe. I don't know. It was just like honestly, it's my video game handle.
Oh, it's your video game handle. Okay.
Yeah. And then I just was like, well, I guess I'll just publish under that. When I first started publishing stuff for Know Nothing, I thought it would be fun to just have like a name that I only write under in that magazine. I just thought it'd be kind of fun to have like a sort of like an alias, but also everybody knows, who it is.
Yeah.
So obvious follow-up question is first-person shooters or RPGs?
Mostly RPGs,
Okay.
I would say. But I do play some first-person shooters. I love Destiny. That's my favorite. And
Nice.
I played a lot of Halo when I was a kid.
Nice.
So that was it. I beat it on Legendary when I was 11.
Wow.
That's impressive.
So,
I got kicked off of my friend's game.
wow. I got really aggressive in that game. Actually, I used to play with my brother and I threw a controller at his head and then I stopped playing after that. For like honestly years. I did not play Halo until quarantine. I was like, I'm really angry and this this feels
right. Cost you the game? Did he cost you the game? Like, guys, we got this. There's no way we can lose this. If somebody just doesn't die 3 times in a row and your brother's like, hold my beer, or in this case because he's 11, hold my root beer. And
well, he would just snipe me a lot, and I hate snipers. They're cowards. I think they're cowards. It's the worst way to play a game, and I just feel like I'm more about like close range. So he got his 10th kill or whatever and was like killing frenzy, and then I just absolutely lost it.
Sounds like the best way to beat you, though. To be honest.
Yeah. It is, I guess, and he's got me there, but I don't play with him anymore.
So you're one of the co-founders of Know Nothing magazine. Is that the right name?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that is right.
It's kind of like a zine. Is that correct? Or
yeah, so it's like a magazine or a zine, an anthology, I guess, but it's a monthly.
Cool. Okay.
We do it every single month, which is crazy, and I don't know how we've done it.
Wait, who's we? Who's we?
So it's 3 people basically, kind of run it. So it's me, and then Christian, and Carpet or Jacob. He goes by Carpet. That's like kind of what we publish under.
Okay.
But basically we were all roommates, and it started like 3 years ago. Didn't get published for like a year. I mean, we didn't like publish it, but we just didn't put it out anywhere.
Okay.
I was like just fresh out of college, and I had dropped out, and I was like not sure what I wanted to do, and I like went to college to be a art teacher, but then like Trump got elected and things kind of just shifted, and there just wasn't a lot of money for like the arts, and I all my art teachers were like, you shouldn't do it, it sucks. I was like,
where did you go to school? I almost don't want you to tell me, but that's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy. I went to 2 different high schools. I went to one in Minnesota, which was fine because they get a lot of funding there.
Yeah.
But in Florida, like there's like shit funding. Like, sorry, am I allowed to swear on this?
We don't usually. So
we don't usually, but we don't honestly. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know.
It's like it's not. Assuming you don't like go up on something that's like, okay, now we're gonna get pulled from everything.
Okay, I won't really. Okay. If I do, it's an accident. I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay.
Don't worry about it.
Anyway, so they don't have really good funding. So it was a school in Estero because they were like, you don't get any funding and you don't get paid a lot, and they were kind of. Anyway, I just didn't want to do it anymore, so I ended up dropping out. But I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I was like in between jobs. And Christian was my roommate, and so was Jacob. And Christian like approached me because I was still like drawing a little bit, but I wasn't drawing like a lot. And but he was like, hey, like I want to make this zine, and I'd never even like heard of that. Like, I don't know. I had only like heard about like art in like this pretentious side of art, and so I just didn't really know much about it. And so he was like, oh, you just kind of like make your own magazine. And I was like, that sounds cool. And he had this idea and he was like, it's going to be like mundane yet remarkable, which was kind of like slice of life stuff that we thought was important, but normally people wouldn't necessarily find it very important. And that's kind of like the whole idea of the magazine. And so when it started out, it was honestly like images and like poems and like just weird ramblings and like a lot of that kind of stuff. Like the very first issue is just me, Christian, and Jacob
cool.
working on it. Kind of cool. Yeah. It's like there was like no one in there, but we wanted more people to be in it. We just like kind of didn't know that many people. And then about a year went by and I'd actually never really read comics. Like I didn't grow up around it at all, really, aside from like I would read like the funnies in the Sunday paper and stuff. And I like remember reading Garfield a lot. Was big fan of Garfield and Peanuts.
Yeah,
so,
me too. Everyone is
But, yeah,
is really
no,
hating
they're-
on both of those things now, and
yeah.
I don't
People
get it.
hate-
They're
I don't
both
think people
pretty
ever really
funny.
hate on Peanuts. People hate on Garfield for longer than they should.
I don't
and-
know why.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
But I
It's,
feel like
it's for
they're holding
kids,
him up
people.
now.
It's for kids. Calm down. He likes
I think-
lasagna.
The reason why people hate on Garfield so much is that like they felt he didn't have as much character growth as like say like because Peanuts the characters they did have like a lot of character growth. They focused on different characters, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot to work with there, you know. I don't know how much you can write about a lazy cat. It's gonna become redundant.
The
at
I
some
mean, he
point.
did
the
it for a
cartoon-
long time. I think there's
still-
plenty of material.
I think the comic strip is better than the show itself,
The show.
to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's a little boring.
I mean, maybe
But
the
the strip
hate
was
came
fine.
from the movies, which were just terrible. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot they did the like
Yeah.
CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there's like a
Bill
ooh,
Murray.
UK one, isn't there too? Oh my gosh. Wow. Forgot about that.
Yeah.
I never watched them.
I haven't really
I
seen
just-
them. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I turned them right
Dark-
off.
That was
that's
a
for
dark
sure.
time.
Yeah. So maybe that's why.
Anyway.
But they were a good comic. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they were great. I did read a lot of those, and I would just kind of. And then my dad and my stepmom, when they were in high school, they like dated, and they used to pass like they would read Mad Magazine and they would draw stuff out of it and like scribble it in doodles and stuff. So we had like 2 huge volumes of those.
Oh, cool.
So that was pretty much the only like exposure that I got to that. But I didn't know anything about.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't know anything about superhero comics or anything like that. And then I kind of just got older and whatever. So Christian wanted to go to a comic shop because he wanted to pick up, I don't know, do you know my brother and me at all? No?
Eric.
It's like a-
no,
I don't.
no,
I,
I
I
haven't heard
should.
that.
Okay. It's like a podcast, but they also had a D&D campaign that they did like
Okay.
over podcast. And then somebody like a fan ended up illustrating it and they made it into like a comic version. And so we wanted to buy that. It's not important. Whatever. We went to a comic book shop. I'm not going to say names, but we went to one that was like very classic comic book where it's just like superheroes bin after
okay.
bin. You gotta like search through it like normally and everything. And it's kind of like tough to go through all of them. And I just wasn't really, no offense, interested. And I just didn't really like, it wasn't like very cool.
You're not
And then we
alone.
went to another
Yeah.
called Banff Comics.
Okay.
Shout out to Banff Comics. They're in Maitland, and they did have like a superhero section, but then they also had like an indie section.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of started flipping through stuff, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I didn't know there was all these different art styles. I didn't know like the kinds of stories that you could tell, because I just always thought it was like always has to be
Yeah.
action and like punchy and you know, or like really funny, but there was like just sad stuff. And I was
Yeah.
like, cool, sad stuff. And I was like, this is cool. And I was like, why don't I do this? Because like in high school, I was always like writing and I used to want to be a writer. And then I like switched to art, like right at the end of high school. I was like, actually, art's really cool. And like, I'll just do this. But I like didn't want to give up on either one of them. And then I was like, whoa, comics is just all of that. You know, if you want, you can just do both of them. And so I started doing that as well. And when we started going to that comic shop, we, you know, they had some kind of smaller press stuff out. And I was like, we should ask them like if they'll sell like no nothing. And Christian was like, I don't know, you know. And I was like, let's do it, you know. And so we just asked him and they were like, oh yeah, for sure. Like definitely. bring your stuff here, we'll put it out. And they even put it out like next to the comics, and they were like, new this week, and it was like this big deal. And we have like a picture of like the three of us, and we're all like, huh, that's awesome. Our stuff is being sold here. And like we just didn't know, just like a bunch of kind of weird doodles in there. Like in that magazine, there is a image of Jar Jar Binks and Woody Allen combined that I drew. It's just nonsense. We were like, they're selling it, I guess. And so we just kind of like decided to do that. And then after that, we did a couple tablings, and we met like random people, and it just kind of took off. Like people were just, hey, well, we would be like, would you want to be in it? Like, is that cool? And they were like, yeah, absolutely. Or people would ask to be in it. And then I started going on Instagram and just following different people, not like for that purpose necessarily, but just being like, there's just a lot of talent out there.
Yeah.
And I would find people who I had been following for a while. Like, there's a guy, Damn Carl. I remember I reached out to him pretty early on, or like Full Hair Weave. He does these really cool little, I think he was like in our 3rd issue or something, but he does these little like cool doodles, and he would just do them on like napkins and stuff. And I was like, man, like that's cool. Like you should be somewhere, you know what I mean? But there really isn't like a place for that. Like I think people think, okay, there's web comics, and then there's like full on comics, man. Like, but it's like not necessarily that.
Right.
So I like that we're able to sort of let people kind of contribute. And in the beginning, we didn't really have a lot of comics, and then all of a sudden it like exploded. And then
it became more of a comic kind of place.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like that's most of the submissions we get. We used to have like this guy, Paul Kohortjan. I think that's how you say his last name. It's a cool last name. Not really sure how to say it. But he makes awesome comics. He made like Tales on the Toilet. You should have him on here. He's really cool. But he originally, we found him on Reddit. I think he posted, or I can't remember, it was like Christian did or something. And he was writing like short stories, and he wanted to be in a zine or like publish them in a zine. And we were like, yeah, man, like put him in ours, Yeah. And he would write these awesome like short stories, and they were so interesting. And he was like directing a short film. And we're like, who is this guy? Like he's like from Missouri, and he's like, I gotta move to the UK because like my wife's from the UK. And we're like, why? Like this guy's awesome. And then he started doing comics, and it's like incredible. Like he makes like the funniest comics, and they're just like super cool and interesting, and he like whips them out like that. I'm like, what is this guy? But it's like awesome because we just like found people like that, and we're really lucky. We kind of got introduced. But all these people are incredibly underrated. Like even the ones who have a pretty good following, I'm like, you could definitely have more. Like you're doing like great stuff. So that's kind of what we offer, is just like more exposure and sort of like a community. We wanted that, but it, and we weren't sure if that was going to happen, and it did kind of happen. And we've seen like people meet through the magazine and then end up doing other projects. And like, we love that, because we just kind of want more people to read comics. Like we used to watch like Cartoonist Kayfabe all the time, and they would talk about, just encouraging people to do comics and to try it and to just, give it a shot. You know what I mean? I feel like it's one of those mediums that people just don't even think to try, but I feel like there should just be more stories of it, and there's so much you can do with it. So, yeah, sorry, that was a long ramble.
No,
you're good. You're good. You're great.
Yeah, actually, Twitch is giving you lots of love for having stuff in the stores and like helping people get stuff in the stores.
Yeah, no, I mean, Nick's just really courageous. I mean, just to have the bravery to go like, hey, can we show you our stuff? And the person's like, yeah, you can show our stuff or all that stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, just even having the courage to just knock on doors, it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it's tough.
And Dex deserves applause for that.
Yeah. Well, it works out so well because so we have like, it works out so well because of the people who are in it. Like Jacob is like our tech guy. Like he runs our website. He's like the foundation. He writes a lot of the like descriptions on there, and he's so funny. Like he has like the weirdest sense of humor. It makes me laugh so hard, but he like really understands that. And he's also like just always really energetic. Like whenever we would table, he would just run around and he'd be like, this guy wants to buy like 4 of our zines because I talked to him. And he would just like get somebody, and then we would just, because we're all just like really excited and about it. And it's like, it's so fun too, to like there is my stuff, like my stuff is in it, you know what I mean? Like it definitely is in there, and I definitely design a lot of the covers, I'll be honest.
Cool.
Just because I love designing covers. That's like my favorite thing. And so, but it's really easy to be like, please read this magazine, because it's not necessarily just me. It's like all these people who I'm like, that guy's awesome. Like you need to read that comic, or like you need to see like her stuff. Like it's just like really exciting, and it's like really easy to talk about. So we don't mind doing it. You know what I mean? Like I kind of grew up with like a big sales background, and like my mom is really religious. She's like a minister.
Okay. All right.
Long story. But anyway, I was like grew up really much in like the public eye. So like I know how to like sell things to people in a sense. So, but it's like really easy to do that when you're talking about like Know Nothing, because it's just like, yeah, these people are cool. Read our magazine.
Right.
We try so hard. Like, you know,
can honestly say that like there will be something in there for you for no matter what, because all these people are contributing. You may not be, hey, comics A and B may not be your cup of tea, but comics C, D, E, F through Z will be fantastic for you.
Yeah. And even then, like it's not always comics, which I kind of love, because it kind of exposes you to a lot of things. Like there's gonna be a medium, you know, that you enjoy. Like if you're just there for the images and just to browse through, like that's fine. But also like if you want like a long story, like we'll do that. Like the Slash issue, and we want to do this a little bit more, but we asked a lot of the people who frequently submit to our magazine like a question. Like I talked about a story where what I kind of like told you about, which was when we first started the magazine, I was working on that Jar Jar Binks Woody Allen piece.
Right.
Because Jacob had written this stupid poem where he like referenced them, and I was like, wouldn't it be so stupid if I drew this combination? And like, you have to understand, like I had just dropped out of art school because this German professor was like, your art is too pretty and you'll never be an artist. And I was like, oh my gosh, the art world is so strange and intense. And then like I was like drawing like what I thought was nonsense.
What
and
art
I thought
school
it was
was
like,
this?
It was UCF for some reason.
Central Florida?
University of Central Florida.
Wow. Okay.
In Orlando. It wasn't even like, it was like a painter's one course. I was taking it way too seriously.
What were you painting? What kind of?
It was we would do different like not genres, but oh my god, it's been so long since I've been in art school. This is so embarrassing. But what's like, you know, like different movements, art movements.
Yeah.
And so we like expressionism or something.
Okay.
And you would have to do like a painting that was like an expressionist
in
painting.
that form. Okay.
Yeah. And it was always like the same dimensions, and you would make a painting a week, and I would make ones, and I don't know, I thought they were good. And then I remember one time he was late to the class, and it was expressionism, and I made this painting, and I was like, this is awesome. There's no way this guy's not gonna like this. And so the like TA or whatever was like, hey, let's vote on like not vote, but like comment on one that like speaks to you and then say why.
Yeah.
And like different people raised their hands, and like 4 people said mine, and I was like feeling really good. And I was like, this is the day, it's gonna be awesome. The professor comes in, and every time he would, which this was so humiliating, they love to do this in art school, but you would have to go to the front of the class, and then they'd talk about your piece in front of you and be like, hey, I don't like this.
It's a crit,
and he would literally say that. Yeah. So he was like, I don't like it. I don't know why I don't like it.
Just that?
But I don't like it. And then he goes, I like this one, this one, this one, this one. Literally pointed to every single one around mine, and then said, but yours, I don't like, and I don't know why. And I was like,
because he doesn't like you. Like that's the only thing.
And I was like, that's cool. And then I like sat down, and I was like, I don't know about this.
That's horrible. Yeah, that's horrible.
A simple no would suffice.
Yeah, I was like, this is awesome. Thank you so much for that. Because it's not even like, is that even criticism at that point? That's just like, I don't like it. And it's like,
right. No,
great.
That has nothing to do with
definitely know how to run with that.
Yeah, with your technical abilities, which is all undergraduate art, I'm told, is about just the technical, mostly.
Yeah. So that's why comics is like insanely different.
Because you're so typical that they would tell somebody in art school that they'd never be an artist, and then you drop
Yeah.
out and become an artist.
Yes.
Like better,
Yeah.
probably more of an artist than most people who went and graduated from that school right now.
My favorite quote is from the Troy Parker and the other guy, like where they were the only people like doing their films or everything. Everyone else doing like these like super like deep meaning films, and they're doing about like cardboard cutouts about the kids that they remind from their growing up as a kid, like kids that remind them when they're growing up as a kid, and like they are by far the most successful one of any of them, and not even like comparatively. It's like what he's like, and they were. I was told by they were like we were told by our professors that we were going to amount to nothing.
Yeah.
And clearly that's not the case.
Yeah, obviously. It's really interesting because I think it just sort of, it completely depends on like there's no necessarily like a source for where like good art comes from. And I think it's more about like the support that you have and like the encouragement. And I think that's honestly what a lot of people need. Like when I was in art school, I feel like a lot of people were like, well, you need to learn to be critiqued because the world is difficult and people are mean. And I was like, yeah, they are. And I know that part already. And I didn't come to college to learn that part. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think more than anything, I learned more from people who were encouraging. Like, I had this one art teacher, like they weren't all bad. I had this one art teacher and she taught 2D design, which I was like, not into design. I don't know why. I just like didn't really think it was interesting. I always thought design equals advertising. And I was like, I'm not in advertising. Why would I care about design? Dumb. You know what I mean? But then I like
Said the
was in
person
the
who
class.
designs magazines. Yeah.
Yeah, completely different. Now it's like my favorite thing, and I absolutely love design. It's like so important to me. But it was because I like learned it in our class, and we did like cut paper, and I was like, this is weird. And then the more I did it, I was like, this is kind of dope. And then I was like balancing things, and she was really encouraging. She was like, you have a really good like photogenic eye, and she asked me to be in an art show like after I like left her class, and it was just like very encouraging, you know, to like have that like support. And that really was what motivated me. And also that was why I wanted to be like a teacher, was to be that person to be like, hey, like, hey, your stuff's great. You know what I mean? Because those are the people who really got me to like do way more, was like out of that encouragement. And so when I dropped, I was like, oh man, I'm never going to be able to do that again. And then like, this has become that, you know what I mean? Like we get to just like encourage all these people and be like, I think your stuff's so good that I'm going to publish it in a magazine. Like, even if it's like the smallest pressing, like people just think like, that's so cool. Like my stuff is published.
Oh, it's special.
Like,
yeah. I mean, it's
it's a
really
feeling,
great feeling.
To like, to go be able to go back and point to like, I did that. Look at like, this is like, it's my trophy that's, I can physically hold in my hand. It really means something.
Yeah, exactly. And my favorite thing to do too, is I like to find like random people that I've like worked with. Because I've worked a couple of different places. I used to work in a security department for a school. And there was this guard who drew incredible stuff. I mean, like incredible, like, I don't know, like I can't even explain, but he would make these like superhero sketches. And like, it was so clear, like he had read a bunch of, that he would build like these robots, and they were just so interesting. And he would like leave them on the desk because he would work the night shift and I worked the morning, and he would leave them on a desk for me because he knew that I did art, and he would, because he wanted to show me, and he was really shy and really quiet. And I was like, hey man, like we're making this magazine. It was our second one, I think. And I said, we're doing this magazine, like, can I put it in the magazine? And he was just like, yeah, like that's awesome. Yes, I would love that. And I was like, okay. So I like put it in there, and he was on the back page and like inside. And I like brought it into him, and it was just like, it meant like so much to him, you know? And it was just like really awesome to just like see, because I was like, this is cool. Like people should know about that, like art, and like people's, people are just creative all the time, and it's like all around you. But I just think there's certain people who just like don't really think they're good enough, or like they don't know where their stuff would fit well. And I feel like when you're making a magazine like Know Nothing, it's like, it's an anthology. So you can literally just put whatever you want in there, you know what I mean? To a certain extent, it's never going to feel really out of place, you know? Or if you're like, okay, I'm making this new comic and it's like a new character and I'm not really sure about it, let me just make like a couple pages. And then you're kind of like, well, what do I do? Like, do I put this out on the web? And it's like, you can kind of get some feedback from that, but we can be like, no, like, let's publish it. Let's see what, see what happens. And then now it's published and you can see it physically, and you can go like, yeah, I want to keep doing this, or no, like maybe I don't, you know what I mean? You have like the opportunity to do that. And I think that's kind of like tough in the comic world, because you always think you have to make like a full book or like a mini comic, or then you got to figure out the layout, and like that's a pain.
Right.
So,
I mean, like there's parts of the process that people don't always know how to do or like have the energy for, you know.
totally.
It's different drawing on your desk and like showing somebody who's on the morning shift than like publishing and trying to get a comic shop to buy it, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we also sell it in more than one place. We used to sell it at Remix Records. I think we need to like refill. That's been a long time ago. But we regularly sell it at Park Ave. And now I work there. So it's a record place in Orlando, Park Ave CDs. And they have like a magazine, like a zine section. So I like stock it there and I sell my comics there.
Oh, cool.
And then I work there. So I get to just like talk to people about it. So sometimes people will be buying it and I'll be like, I made that. And I get really nervous all of a sudden.
Hey, you want me to sign it? I can do that right now.
Yeah. People, somebody asked me and it made me feel like so good. I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Like, I guess I'll sign it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's great because I get to like talk about it. And I think that gets people, I think that's what's great about tabling is you can really like talk about more about the meaning behind it. And I think when people know like this person seems like they genuinely care about this and it's not just like for the money or whatever people would think, I don't know. But you just kind of like immediately know like, oh yeah, like I would like to buy this or be more involved. And I found like some more readers and stuff that way and more people who want to like publish and put stuff in the magazine. So yeah, it all like works out really well.
So you assemble it by hand or is it digital or how does the actual process work?
So originally it was always by hand.
Okay.
And it is not always by hand. Like it is in the sense that like we fold every single one, we staple every single one.
Okay.
If you're buying it from our Patreon, like we packaged it, we hand wrote your address, we decorate the packages. Like there is a lot of like hand done stuff like going on. And then a lot of the stuff in it, like I hand draw and like we'll write it out. And there are a lot, like I think the last, like, I don't even know how many issues, but quite a few issues were originally like just all hand done. And what we would do is we'd like cut everything out, paste it. And there was like an actual copy. We would take it to FedEx, scan that, and then upload it, kind of like move some things around. Not really. It was usually like that was basically the final product. And then we'd send it off to the printers.
Okay.
But then recently, like a lot of stuff has been going on and there are some date, you know, these certain months, you know, especially when you're doing a monthly magazine, it's like, okay, like the deadline's approaching, we got to do this fast kind of thing. So we ended up doing some of them digital here and there. But for the most part, like every single time that we do it digitally, we're not typing it out for the most part, like
right.
We're hand drawing every single one. And Christian has like a history and like doing graffiti and stuff. So he's really great at like lettering, which is great. So if you see any like really good lettering, it's probably him.
Okay.
I do like, I'm getting better, but like, yeah, he does like all the like the contents page and stuff. Like he writes all of those and like hand does them and stuff like that. So yeah, it still is like a lot of hand done because we wanted it to be that way. Like we want it to feel like kind of like a scrapbook, or not really a scrapbook, but like, you know what I mean? Something that feels born.
Feels indie, not like big machine.
Yeah, because we don't want to ever feel that way. I don't want to ever feel like this is a pretentious thing. That's like the furthest thing from our minds.
Interesting.
And like I hope we don't ever come across that way, which I don't think we do, but I don't know. Who knows?
What kind of printer do you use?
Well, we use like a printing place we send it off to. I honestly forgot what it's called, but if you need it, I'll let you know.
No. We are just wondering.
How autobiographical are your comics? Because like we haven't talked about.
Yeah, we haven't.
Sorry.
Good transition, Eric.
Yeah. Well, no, just because like you talked, because I actually want to talk about, because you literally do a comic that, not to spoiler, it's about a character doing stand up, and you're talking about going in front of everybody being judged. I'm like, if you did stand up, that's literally what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're making people laugh, and people are thankful for you doing it. But that's literally what you're doing, is you're going up and you're being judged. So
Barry the Blob is the name of the character.
Yes.
Barry the Blob is the name of the character. We have there's issue 0 and Barry the Blob Tonight, which is his stand-up routine.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious how autobiographical, because another year's your half birthday feels very, very autobiographical in that I can see you and I can see the girl on it, and They look very similar. They're even wearing the same color shirts, actually.
Yeah. So pretty much all of my stuff is pretty autobiographical. I just think that most of whenever I'm writing, I like writing that feels really sincere. And I think the easiest way to be sincere is to tell like a version of your own story. Like you can switch some things out or whatever, but truly it should be kind of like somebody, I mean, not always. Some people have incredible inventive imaginations, but I've just looked at my own writing and seen like, okay, I write way better when it comes from a place that I like understand.
Yeah.
So yes, they are anthologies. Windows I Think About, totally an anthology. That's, or not anthology, but like it's autobiographical. I'm just like stuck on the anthology word because we were just talking about the zine. Anyway, it is autobiographical 100%. And so is the Windows I Think About. That was actually the half birthday. That was the first comic I ever made. You can kind of tell because the margins are like, where are the margins?
Which one was? Which one?
The half birthday one was the very first one I did.
Half Birthday by Me, the one that I take to say depressing,
sad.
but it's sad. It's very like it's not like I didn't read this and like, ooh, no, I'm gonna go eat ice cream because that reminds me of that.
Yeah, it is very sad. I remember actually when one of my first tablings, I was tabling at Banff, and this little girl came up. She was like probably like 10 or something, and she like opens it up because it's colorful and it looks nice. And so she opens it up and she like reads it, and then she finished and she goes, well, that was sad. And then she walked away. And I was like, oh no. I like, because I didn't want to stop her because I didn't want to be like, that's inappropriate. Because it's like not, you know what I mean? Like, I guess all I'm like exposing her to is like sadness. But yeah, it's a bit of a sad one. I actually wrote it on my half birthday. I was like kind of going through it. And when I first started doing art, I don't feel this way as much anymore, but I used to make art a lot more when I was like down. So I was like, it was kind of like my way of like coming out of stuff would be like, okay, I kind of want to be alone a lot. And when I'm alone, I still wanted to feel productive and to feel like make myself feel better. I'd be like, well, let me be productive and I'll make a piece of art. And so sometimes it like is whatever I'm like going through.
Okay.
So I was going through it and I was like, whatever, I'll make this comic. And then I made it and I was like, do I want everybody to read this? And then I was like, whatever, like let's just do it. Like, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
you made it, so might as well.
Yeah, I was like, I'll just do it and it'll be fine. And I think that the comic community is really real and raw. And that's like very like normal, I think. Not always, but like you do see that a lot. So I was just kind of like, whatever, let's just go for it this first time. And then when I did Windows, I never had to worry about, well, am I going like too sad with this one? I would just be like, I did have birthday. This will be fine.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it doesn't matter, you know? So it was like pretty good. But Barry is, so I.
Wait. Windows. Let's just talk about Windows.
Let's talk about Windows.
Oh, Windows. Okay.
What was the inspiration? Like, why Windows? First of all, like, what was the intro to Windows, or in your process? What do you write first, or do you just draw, or how do you
So actually pretty much all of them are written in my notes, like in my notes app.
Okay.
Usually I'll be like thinking about something, and the idea behind Windows was I talk a lot and I can write a lot. And I used to always like write a lot in high school. Like I remember they would be like, okay, 500 word minimum. And I'd be like, cowards, like I'm gonna go over 500. Like, so stupid. But I would be like, I can write about anything, and I like to write, and I can think about a lot of words. And so Windows was the idea that I wanted to like dilute what I do, because as I've gotten older and I've realized that I'm like very much drawn to when people are able to say a lot with a little, and there's something very like powerful in that, especially when you can kind of leave a lot up to the imagination, because you can allow people and readers to sort of fill in the gaps with either their own experiences or what they want to project onto that. There's something like really powerful about that by not giving everything away. And so when I was doing Windows, the very first page, the first one is that I'm not afraid of dying, or what's on the other side. I'm more afraid of living a very like
useless life.
Normal life. Useless life. There you go. That was it. I was like, normal life? In my head. Anyway, but that was like, I was like, okay, I'm just going to do 4 panels because I want to make a comic, and I'm going to do 4 colors, and they're all going to be like really minimal. And I just want to make this thing. And so I made it one night and I posted it, and it like was the most well-received thing I'd ever made. Like,
cool.
People were sharing it. People messaged me and were like, that was so good. Like, it was really important to me. And I was like, I like said like a sentence, you know what I mean? Like, but it was like enough that people, you know, and it was really simple and it wasn't like anything, but for some reason it like really like got to people.
Yeah.
I was like, I can do this. I can keep doing these. This only took me like a little bit of time. Plus I was working with a lot of materials that I was really familiar with. Like watercolor is by far like my favorite.
It's watercolor.
Medium.
Yeah. What else?
Yeah. It's all watercolor and it's micron pen.
Micron pen. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's like the actual sketchbook itself is like only like this big.
Oh, it's small. You work small. Okay.
Pretty small. Yeah. I mean, I can work big too, but I like to work small because
cool.
It just, I don't know. I feel like things get done faster when I'm working small.
Sometimes we have people with simple things that are like on full comic pages, you know?
Yeah.
And we're like, what?
That's crazy.
But
like the Barry the Blob I did make in the standard comic size. The 01, the one where he takes the edible is done the big style. I actually took a class from Enzo Garza. Do you guys know Gutkos Scout?
No.
Okay. So it's Gutkos is like a comic that's published by Scout. It's really good. And Enzo Garza actually is one of the owners of Banff Comics. And so when we started going into there, I became friends with him like pretty early on. And I was there on Free Comic Book Day, and I was like, hey, like anything you'd recommend? Like, you know, just asking. And he was like, this seems, I don't know, pretty good. And he like opened up and there was this comic, and I was like, yeah, this is dope. Like, who did this? And he was like, I actually did this. And I was like, oh my gosh, like you have a comic? That's so cool. And so, he makes his own comic, and he used to be in, oh my God, I'm blanking so hard. It's not 8-Ball, but it's called, I forgot. There's another, I think it's like a publishing, or like maybe it was a magazine that he was in for a while, and he got published by them for a while. But he started out just making his own, and then he would go tabling different places, and like the word just kind of like got out, and the right people kind of got involved. And so he explained that to me, and I was like, huh, okay, like this is cool. Like I could do that. Like I'm not doing anything anyway. Like I don't want to give up on art. I'll probably work a day job. At this point, I had a job that I was working anyway, but I like wanted to have something else that I was like working on, and like we were doing nothing but, you know, personal projects. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll do that, you know. And then I did Half Birthday, and then Windows came later on. But yeah, basically Windows was sort of, I feel like my biggest success, at least for now. I mean, I haven't been able to table it, so like I don't really know, but it's the thing that I'm most proud of because it's the longest and I kind of like everything that's in it. But yeah, the idea was just to sort of make them all like just one page, so it's very simple, and then it's always a thought. And then as I started to do the comic more and more, I started to create like more rules for myself. Like for instance, every panel has to be its own like thing. Like they can't be too similar. I've done ones, like there's that one that's about if there's a god. Originally I had the first panel was like just clouds, and I was like, that's cliche and dumb. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I need to do something else. And so I just like thought really, really hard about what God felt like to me. And I always feel like when sun comes in and it hits the floor and it makes those like squares, it feels kind of like God. I don't know.
It does.
Feels like spirit or something. I don't know. I just imagine like, oh my gosh, it looks like something's going to come down or something through that, whatever. And then I was like, an escalator seems kind of sad and it looks like a waiting room. And that feels a lot like, you know, what that would feel like. And so that's kind of like how I would build everything. And I would just focus on one sentence at a time, and then I pencil it, and then I go to the next panel and I think of another one, and then I just go in and I like ink it all, and then I watercolor it. And pretty easy. And then I scanned it, and then I ended up bringing it into like my like Photoshop. And I was like, boosting the colors, and then the white ended up looking kind of like purplish, and I was like, is that bad? And then I was like, nah, it's kind of cool. So I just decided to print it that way. So actually it's like purple, and then it has like the full.
Oh, cool.
That's really cool. I mean, it's like honestly, like when because how I read these, I read the berries first, and I read Happy Birthday.
That's how they were written. So
okay, well,
actually,
I thought this was your last one just because like it just
sorry, yeah,
was like just by far like just I like not that like the others aren't full comics, but this is a full comic if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I speak words well.
No, I hear you. Yeah, so it went half birthday, and then I did Barry. I actually did Barry 1 first. Sorry, that's very confusing. I don't know why I did it that way. It was because when I finished 1, it ends with like a to be continued. And at the time I was writing like a second one, but I was doing it on my iPad. And then I signed up for this class where Enzo was teaching like how to make mini comics. Okay. And I was like the traditional way, using like the big paper and that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to do that, but I didn't want to like
ruin your timeline.
Last one. Yeah, like I didn't want to like restart 2. I was like, I'll just finish it digitally. I'll just make a different story. And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I just drew this one-off story? Because like the way I look at it is it's kind of like Seinfeld or something like that, like a sitcom where every episode is just his own like bumbling through life kind of deal.
Okay.
So I was like, wouldn't it be funny if he got too high and then he has to like get to a set? That's very relatable for me. So
wait, are you a stand-up too?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I am not a stand-up. I do really want to be one, or I used to want to be one. And so that's why I live vicariously through Barry. But there's this part of me that's like, I should do it or try just so that I have that experience. Because I feel like it's cheating almost to not, you know what I mean? To like expose this character of mine to the trials of being a comedian without having like experienced it myself.
Yeah.
But I'm nervous. And that was always my joke, was like, I would just be like a blob. Like I would just be an anxious blob. And that's how I came up with Barry, was like, he's exactly what I would be if I was on stage. And then the idea is I always tell people, oh, it's a comic about a blob who's a bad stand-up comedian in New York. And I always say he's a bad stand-up. So that way, like, if they're reading it and they're like, these jokes suck.
I can like thought this was your stand-up routine. You just drew it. Like I'm like, oh, this is
really
funny. She just like, I was bored one day. I drew my stand-up routine, but like I didn't want to show myself, so I just did it as a blob.
That would be a good idea, honestly. But no, I kind of wanted to make jokes about what he is, and like the other comics that I'm writing right now, like I want to use more of like his blobbiness to do like action comedy, or like physical comedy. I want to use it more with like his form because it's kind of funny. And I just like thinking up like really dumb jokes. It's just like really easy to write a blob, and I think it's always going to be funnier because it's him. For some reason it just like always seems a little stupid. And the other idea is that everyone else in the world is pretty normal, you know what I mean? Like a lot of just normal people, and everyone's just kind of like, what's this fucking guy? But it's New York, so nobody cares, you know? So that's sort of the idea.
Your Instagram has like a ton of art, like not always comics, I think, right? Like some of them are just sketches and just like things that you do that aren't necessarily comics. Was it hard for you to transition into like a panel by panel?
Yes.
Did it take that class to kind of do it? Or
it wasn't, I mean, I don't want to be like, he didn't teach us that much, but he did teach us the paneling. I think I got a little bit better at from reading comics. The more you read it, I think the more you get examples of like, okay, so that's how they laid it out, and that's how, you know what I mean? Like, and I really am drawn to that. Like when I pick out comics, to be honest, I look a lot for like art style more than anything, because for me, it's like just really interesting. I've definitely read a lot of ones that are fascinating, whatever, but whenever I can see like, oh, this person's like laying things out really differently, or really taking advantage of the medium of comics. I think comics is doing something that no other medium does, which is you have so much control. Like I started to think of it as like a movie where I was like, I'm the director. I get
Yeah.
to like cut, every angle, every, you know what I mean? Like it's full control over like everything that's happening. And then some. I
For a
wrote the
very
script.
small budget because you know how to draw.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. But it's like that's something incredibly powerful because you completely make up your own universe. And I'm kind of taking stuff that already exists in my own world and creating things. But when I make like Barry, that's completely just from my own head. Like I don't use
Yeah.
really references too much. I mean, I kind of look up some stuff. Like I had to look up like a taxi cab because I was like, what's a car? You know what I mean? I don't remember how all that works. But to a certain extent, I try to like use my own brain to try to think of stuff because I think you come across more illustrative.
Yeah.
Because in my art history, like when I would do art, I was really drawn to surrealism is my favorite medium.
Okay.
And the thing that I like about surrealism is it's very realistic, but you kind of look at it and you go, something feels like off about this. And so that was always what I was going for. So that hyper realism I was going for, but now I'm kind of like, I don't really like that anymore. And I really want to go more towards like an illustrated style. And if I look too hard at like references, I kind of end up doing it a little too realistic, and I don't really want to do that.
Interesting.
Yeah, but anyway,
what is your aesthetic? Like, how do you choose the colors that you choose?
I don't really know.
Or do you have any like? Do you use references when you're doing colors, or do you? Is it? I mean, Barry 1. I'm not talking about Barry 0 because that was separate. But Barry 1 is just red and white, right? And black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was that intentional? Like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the original idea was I wanted to draw like the classic red curtain behind him when he was like performing.
Okay.
And then as I did that, I had automatically done the line work in black. And then I thought, it's kind of cool to do black, white, and red. And then originally I was gonna stick with that, and that was always gonna be the color palette. But now I'm kind of like, I don't really know if I want to do that anymore. The fun thing about Barry is I've kind of decided to just be like, it doesn't need to be consistent. It doesn't have to be,
okay.
Especially when, I'm just kind of starting out. If eventually I find like, okay, you know what? I think I always want to watercolor him, and I think I always want it to be this certain way. I'll stick with that, and that's fine. But in the beginning, it's like, I don't mind that he has a bit of a weird past, because even if this went really far down the line and I'm looking back on it, I think it would be really cool as a reader to go, oh my God, the first one was just black, white, and red. That's so weird. You know what I mean? Like, that's so odd. I didn't know that they like the original ones. I just think that would be really fun to discover anyway. So when I thought about it that way, I was just kind of like, well, it doesn't matter if I need to change things, or if another thing that I was worried about when I was doing comics was like, well, if I make a character and I get better at drawing, that character is going to start to look different.
I mean, that's normal.
As
yeah.
to Garfield, he looks different now, back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was another thing I was going to mention, is like how funny it is to decide to start comics and like choose Blob as like the character, because you never actually have to have a consistent character. Like panel to panel, he can look different,
Exactly. And that's like why I wanted to do it, was I was like, this is so easy. It actually started in a text conversation with Enzo. I was talking to him about something and I made a joke, and he's like, you sound like a stand-up comedian. And you know how you can draw in your notes app? Yeah. So I or like in your chat app or whatever. So I drew this little blob character with a microphone, and it said, is this thing on? And he was like, that's so funny. You should make that a comic. And I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
I should make that a comic. And then I just immediately that day made the first 2 pages of the black, white, and red one. So
that's what I was kind of getting at, is like your colors are like simple but like complex, right? I guess, like
I love color palettes.
And it seems like you said with Windows, like you were scaling back your words to be more intentional, and that's why it works maybe so well, because it's like very simple but like you still feel that complexity.
Whereas Barry rambles like a lot.
Barry rambles, but the colors are simple, right? And, and the character is simple. Like it's it's that duality of and I think the best artists kind of cut corners like that, and
I do have a serious question though. How did you choose the potato chip name of the bag?
What is it, Eric? What does it say?
Gaze potato chips.
Okay.
I wanted to this has kind of been my joke all like for a while. There's another comic that has never been released, and it's called Battlefield Mall, which is weird, but it was a mall that I went to when I was a kid. And someday I'm gonna write this comic, but it's one of those things where I'm like holding out for my ability level to like get to a certain level. I don't know. I haven't done that with anything else, but I just like really like the concept, and I feel like I want to be at a certain state with my art and like understanding like how to make comics more often so that I can really give it the attention that it deserves. But in the magazine, or sorry, not in the magazine, in the comic, I wanted to change all the business names so I wouldn't get in trouble and like replace them with stupid things. And so I kind of wanted to do that with Barry too, because I thought, well, what would be funny if I just like change this? I don't want to write Lays, so I'll just write Gays. And I'm bi, so I was like, that's fine, I can do that, it's allowed. No one's gonna come for me. And I was like, it'll just make people laugh. And every time I forget it's in there, and then I open it up and I just like chuckle to myself. That's pretty funny, you know? And then I did like an upside down W. It's just like kind of anything to have, you know, fun with it, I guess. But yeah, serious question for sure.
Make yourself laugh first before you try to make someone else laugh.
Yeah, well, that's the idea is like, when I was in like college and stuff, I felt like I'm really thinking a lot about what people want of my art. And then when I just started doing it on my own, especially when I did comics, I was like, you know what, I'll just do whatever I want. And then if people think that's funny, great. And if they don't, then maybe I won't do that one as much. You know what I mean? But so far it's worked out. And I think that there are people who really appreciate kind of weird senses of humor and like just odd stuff. And there's like a community for that for sure. And so I don't know, I feel like it's one of the best mediums, and a medium that I feel like expresses sort of who I am better than any of the other ones that I have done before. I still do art because it's more of like an exercise thing. And sometimes I think, well, I'd rather be making something than not making something. And so I do still kind of lean into that more. And I'd like to get more on the train of like making comics more often. But then I always, whenever I do make one, I hold on to it until I can like publish it. Like I have one that's ready to go. That's going to be published probably more towards like the winter or November-ish. Okay. And it's because it's like about a coat. So I was like, this will go better, you know what I mean, during that time. And I didn't want to publish it because I was like, on the web, like people will kind of see it. But like, I don't know, there's something about like physical copies. I feel like that's really powerful and just feels a lot better.
Do you guys have physical copy subscribers or?
Yeah. So we do. So we have a couple of different things. We sell them all obviously in the 2 stores. But then we also do Patreon. And so we have different subscribers. For $3 a month, you can get the magazine. Just the magazine, $3, pretty cheap. It's like the cheapest way to get it. Yeah.
Cheaper than individual issues.
What was that?
It's cheaper than individual issues. I was looking at your website.
Yeah,
and individual issue is $3.50, so you're saving yourself 50 cents.
Yeah, it's like the cheapest way for sure. And that's kind of like, we wanted to do that because we want like everyone to have it who wants it. Like the idea, and I mean, I believe in this too, like with my comics, like I try not to price anything too high. I mean, I guess I price Windows a little bit high, but like not even really. It's full color. I think it's like $5. So it's like not that big of a deal. But I still want like, I would so much rather have more people have it than anything. And so that's why all of our issues are free to read online. You can subscribe for $3 a month and we'll mail you the magazine. For $5, I think you get the magazine and some stickers. The $7 tier, we started a publishing company about 3 or 4 months ago, I want to say, where we started publishing things. Technically, my comics were the first things that they published. We used to always write, like you can see like N&M Publishing at the top. And those are technically the first ones that we published. But then we decided like, let's do it for real, because we were meeting people who were like mad talented, but didn't have the money to invest in that. Because the thing is like, it also helps us because the printing costs, like once you hit a certain mark, like the shipping kind of goes down and like levels out, you know, for us. So we try to order bigger orders, but it's like we don't want to buy a bunch of the issue.
Right.
Like we kind of want to level that out. So we decided, okay, well, let's do publishing, you know, and we'll reach out to these people and, you know, hopefully they'll want to do it. And the deal that we have is like, so they send us it, we format it for them, we send it off to our printers, we print it, we staple it, we fold them, we do it all. And then we send you a big stack so that you can have it.
Okay.
And then all we ask is that an issue goes out to all of our $7 and above Patreon subscribers that month, and they get to see your stuff. And then we'll give like a couple issues. Like we usually drop off like 5 in at our couple locations. So it'd be like Banff and then Park Ave CDs. So we kind of like put them all there, and then that way everybody gets it. But it's a pretty good deal, and we try to do it and it's helped a lot. And we definitely have gotten like a lot of people who were like, oh yeah, like totally, I want to do that, you know, because it is really overwhelming, and it's tough.
Yeah, I bet.
To do it, especially formatting. Like I don't even know how to do that. Like I honestly have Christian because he's like the editor and he knows how to figure out the page layout thing, but like my brain doesn't understand that. So every time he's like, okay, and then we'll format it this way. And so we like reformat the comics and stuff, but it's been pretty easy. A lot of people have been sending us stuff that's like in black and white. So we can definitely, you know, the costs aren't too high or anything for that. And then what we do for some of them, we've started to do more often is we'll do like a full color front and back cover. And then the inside is all black and white. But they're, you know, they're really great, big, thick comics. And they're like awesome, and the stuff that people like come up with is like amazing. So I get really excited every month. I always like wait until they are actually like physically there, and then I like read them and stuff, because Christian's usually one who like formats them. So yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Well, what a great guest you've been.
Yes,
Thanks.
thank you very much.
Amazing. No, really, amazing.
No, it was fantastic talking to you too. And
Thank you
for sharing so much about everything magazine or the zine or comic book related.
Yeah, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Do you have anything else to plug? Anything coming up, or just the magazine and
Yeah, so I do actually. So Enzo Garza and I are going to be doing a joint comic. It's going to be an overlap of Gut Ghost and Barry the Blob.
Oh, cool.
And so we're doing one that's just going to be published by Know Nothing. And so we're working on it right now. It's going to be really stupid and great. And I feel like the characters are going to get along really well. His character's kind of gruff and, you know, but like they're very similar, like the way that and his comic is very like slice of life as well. So kind of always talked about overlapping, and so we decided like we should definitely do it. And so we have it all set up and we're starting to work on it, and then I'm actually going to be the one who colors it, and I'm going to be watercoloring it, which is great because his stuff is done all flat, like not flat, but like it's, you know, like digitally done, and then it has like gradients and stuff like that, but he doesn't typically do like physical coloring. Yeah, so I'm going to be watercoloring it, so it's going to be pretty cool and exciting. And then after that, I think we're going to do one more probably, where I'm going to try to color one of his that'll be published by Scout, hopefully. So that's the plan, at least. But yeah, I kind of wanted to plug that. But that should be probably coming out in like December, January, hopefully.
Great.
So yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, yeah, drop us a line when that does come out.
For sure. I'll definitely send you guys some.
We would love to have you back on.
Oh, thanks. I'd love to be back on. And I'm sure I'll have more people to talk about. So yeah, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. Sorry, I rambled a lot.
I don't call it rambling. You're just talking. It's a podcast. Okay. That's really what we're supposed to be doing here.
You speak passionately. It'd be more upsetting if you're like, and I have a magazine. People.
It's fun to talk about. Yeah, next time we can joke around more too, and we can talk about beards and mustaches and stuff. I promise, but I just wanted to talk a lot about it.
I don't think we should do that.
No, I just use it as an example just because, again, it's like not like to like again break the fourth wall. We talk about what you want to talk about. If you want to talk about, if you're like, my magazines are boring. Let's talk about coffee. Like, okay, we'll talk about coffee.
Whatever we need to do. I feel like when I've listened to some of them, people usually talk about like their favorite comics and comic book artists, and I kind of didn't really do that, but I mean, that's fine. We'll get to them. I mean, they're all doing well anyway. I mean, they don't need the publicity.
No.
So
This guy named Jim Davis. I don't know if you've heard of him. I'm a big fan of his work.
don't know if you've heard of him. But
I mean,
know if you've
actually,
heard
what
of
we like to talk about is the process, which is what we
Yeah.
definitely did. So
Yeah, we definitely talked about the process. We talked about your process. You're also, I think, probably the first watercolor comic book artist that I think I've ever met. So
Cool.
that was actually really cool.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Exciting.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so Macy, thank you so much, and
Thanks so much.
we look
Thanks.
forward to having you again.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.